The sugar diet is the newest and greatest diet taking the internet by storm. All your favorite influencers are doing it. And why not? Sugar is amazing and delicious. I am not anti-sugar. So what is the sugar diet precisely? The sugar diet is a high carbohydrate, low fat, moderate protein diet. And dieters primarily eat sugars, whether it be fruit, honey, juice, or literal sugar. They tend to have 1 to 2 boluses of protein per day with as little fat as possible. And people are losing weight. Some dieters report that their energy has gone up, their satiety goes up, and they feel fantastic. This sounds amazing, right? It sounds too good to be true, so it probably is. Let's be real, the sugar diet can work, but it's not a long-term solution, and it may not work for you. First off, high carbohydrate, low fat diets are nothing new. This is actually typically how most bodybuilders eat. Carbohydrates are the preferred fuel source of the body, and if you're active and metabolically fit, taking the carbohydrates will make you feel good. It will energize you. And bodybuilders leverage carbohydrates to drive performance and build muscle. Additionally, by keeping fats low, bodybuilders help to maximize body composition because it's harder to create fat from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when stored in the body as fat, have to undergo Denovo Lipogenesis, which is a fancy way of saying that carbohydrates have to be converted into fat before they can be stored in the body. This is in contrast to actual dietary fat, which can just be stored as fat. And again, bodybuilders figured this out a long time ago. The sugar diet is just a much more extreme version of this. So then how are people losing weight? What is special about the sugar diet, if anything? It's possible that eating the same amount of calories on a sugar diet versus a traditional diet actually will result in fat loss. That is conceptually possible. It's not very likely, but there are a couple of factors that could lead to that outcome. On the sugar diet, your body will preferentially burn glucose for fuel. This is the body's preferred choice of fuel, so there's nothing really unique happening here. However, as I mentioned, carbohydrates need to be converted into fat before they can be stored in the body, and that process takes energy. Consuming tons of carbs and very little fat increases the thermic effect of that food. Your body requires energy to digest carbs and to store them as fats, and so there's going to be some inefficiency there. If we compare two scenarios, one in which you ingest 2,000 calories of sugars and 2,000 calories of fats, it's possible that in the first scenario, you might actually burn more of that energy up because of the thermic effect, and thus potentially you're actually creating a caloric deficit even though you're eating the same amount of calories. However, this effect is probably minor and almost inconsequential. The real reason why people lose weight on this diet is because they're eliminating an entire macronutrient category of foods. They're eliminating fats, and it's going to be harder to get all of your calories when your choices are restricted. This is the same reason why keto works. This is the same reason why the carnivore diet works. Limiting your choices will, generally speaking for most people, make it harder to overconsume calories. Just think about this logically. If you've never tried the sugar diet and I told you tomorrow all you can do is eat fruit, do you think you're going to eat as much calories as you would normally if you're only having bananas and berries and apples? Almost certainly not. By hour 6, you're going to be tired of eating this way. The foods are going to taste the same. You're going to be overly saturated with sugars. You're going to be tired of tasting all those sweet things. You're going to suffer from flavor fatigue. And so you're probably just going to eat less, and that will result in a caloric deficit. There's nothing magical about the sugar diet, just like there's nothing magical about the carnivore diet. You are just limiting your choices, and as a result, you are likely to consume less calories. Okay, I've articulated that this can work. It's not magical, but it could absolutely lead to real fat loss. So what's the problem with the sugar diet? Well, I think this should be pretty obvious. For one, it's not a complete diet, so you're likely to suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. You're not going to get all the vitamins and minerals you need if you're just eating sugars. It's impossible. Secondly, without ingesting appreciable fat, you'll start to experience weird side effects. Your hormonal levels could crash. Your skin could get worse. You might feel dry and tired and fatigued. And you may notice that a lot of the influencers that are peddling the sugar diet happen to be people who use anabolic steroids. When you use steroids, when you inject exogenous testosterone, you don't need as much dietary fat because those hormones supplant the role of the fats you're consuming. Fat essentially forms the backbone of your hormonal, your endocrine system. And if you're injecting those hormones, you don't need fat. But if you're natural, you certainly do. For most natural athletes, if you try the sugar diet, you're going to start to feel pretty crappy after 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, depending on how robust you are. Additionally, a super high carbohydrate diet like this may lead to insulin resistance and elevated levels of triglycerides, which could ultimately lead to metabolic syndrome or diabetes. And lastly, you can still overeat and gain weight on a sugar diet. You can power your way through that sugar, eat over your maintenance calories, and gain weight. It's not magic. That's really the key here. The sugar diet isn't magical. There is no magical diet. I know this is depressing and this isn't what you want to hear, but the truth is you cannot eat all the foods you want all the time and still look the way you want to look. I struggle with this personally. I've dealt with binge eating. I've dealt with restrictive eating. It sucks. Food is amazing and tasty and I want to eat it all the time, but I can't look like this if I eat all the foods I want all the time. And so I totally get the appeal of these diets like the sugar diet, like the carnivore diet, because they give you a way out. They give you the promise that you're not dieting. You're just eating in a specific way, and so it may not feel as restrictive. But the truth is, these diets are incredibly restrictive. You're cutting out entire macronutrient categories of foods, and these diets aren't sustainable. So while these diets may work for a brief intervention, they're not going to teach you how to build and maintain the kind of body you want. One last thought in closing. It makes sense to me that people who start the sugar diet might feel great at first. Sugar is delicious and carbohydrates, glucose, are the preferred fuel for the body. It makes sense that they feel good at first. The thing that's tricky about dieting, and I would just say life in general, is that your body will lie to you. Things can feel good and still be bad for you. The most obvious and clear example of this is recreational drugs. Heroin feels amazing, but it's still fucking bad for you. The sugar diet might feel good, but it's still bad for you. And dieting, traditional dieting where you're in a caloric deficit and you lose weight over 16 weeks, yeah, that may not feel great. You may feel tired and fatigued. You may feel bored and frustrated with your food options, but that diet is good for you. So sometimes your body will lie to you and you have to ignore it if you want to get the things you want. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you.